Good afternoon, everyone. I call this meeting of the Rotary Club of Oakland to order. I'm Dudley Thompson, and I have the great honor to serve as president of the Rotary Club of Oakland. We were founded in 1908, and we are the third established Rotary Club of some 36,000 clubs in over 200 countries around the world. We are a diverse community of some 270 local business, professional, and community leaders who unite to improve local and international communities through a common commitment of service above self. For over 113 years, we've welcomed Rotarians and guests to our meetings, and I welcome you to this, our 5,372nd meeting. If you're a visiting Rotarian or a guest of a Rotarian, please enter your name in the chat box located at the center of the bottom of the screen so that we can recognize you in a few minutes. And if you have comments or want to ask a question of the speaker, please use the chat box. We recommend that you view today's meeting using Speaker View, located in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. For our thought for the day, I welcome Rotarian Riza Hernandez.
Thank you, President Dudley. Today's thought of the day is a quote by Warren Buffett. It is a perfect metaphor that resonates in various contexts and industries like medical innovations, tech advancements, economic development, long-term investment, and even sports. Thus, the thought of the day by Warren Buffett is, someone's sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Riza. I appreciate bringing up a good Midwesterner. Was it the Oracle of Omaha, right?
That's correct.
A good hamburger guy too. So would you all join me for the to recite the Rotary mission vision statement? Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. So we're still on Zoom, and let me share, and I'll say a little bit more later, that this year, this week, the executive team met along with Anna Marie Jones, who's been advising us also for COVID protocols and precautions and the like. And then Tuesday night, the board of directors met as well. And we've made a decision to remain on Zoom through February. The surge is still with us. In fact, I think 3 of our directors have tested positive over the last month for COVID, and all of them are well. But we still feel that the Omicron virus is spreading, and out of precaution and safety for the club, we're going to continue to meet on Zoom. I'll say a little bit more because we are trying to do outdoor activities and other projects that we can safely. Ed Jelen, do we have any visiting Rotarians or guests today?
Indeed we do, President Dudley. We have some wonderful visiting Rotarian guests. First, we have Richard Swart, who's the president of the Rotary Club of San Francisco, Chinatown. So we welcome Richard to our meeting. Nice to have you. And then David Stein brought with him a guest from club number 2, San Francisco Rotary Club. We'd like to welcome Frank Yoke. Nice to have Frank with us. And then past president of the Rotary Club of San Leandro, a good friend of our club, Diane Dorn, who's also assistant governor for Area 4A. So thank you all for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to have visiting Rotarians and guests. Thank you, President Dudley.
Thank you, past president and past district governor, Ed Jelen. Frank, it's great to have you with us today. As you know, we've, and as most people on this call know, that we've been part of what we call the First Five Collaborative with the First Five clubs in the Rotary world: San Francisco, Chicago being 1, San Francisco 2. We're number 3, Seattle 4, and LA 5. And in fact, we're meeting this afternoon. The First 5 Collaborative meets about once a month still, and we're meeting this afternoon in a couple hours. So we'll be talking with some of your folks. Good to have you here.
Great. Good to be here.
Okay. Riza Hernandez, you've offered to sponsor this meeting today. Could you tell us a little bit about your business?
I believe it's Jesse.
Oh,
It's actually me, President Dudley.
I apologize, Jesse.
I'm sure Riza will sponsor a future meeting, though. Thank you, President Dudley, and good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. My name is Jesse Schmidt, and I'm the co-owner of TNT Strength Oakland, where we say, boom, baby. And we help people build strength in 2 30-minute workouts per week. We are conveniently located at 5255 College Avenue in the Rockridge area of Oakland. And what we describe ourselves kind of like in and out in the way that we deliver our services. So it's not complicated. We only do 2 things. You either train with us once a week or twice a week, and it's always fully supervised by one of our coaches. We have a full set of Nautilus and MedX machines, as well as dumbbells and barbells and resistance bands and any tool you can imagine, really. And we also are still doing virtual training. And that's something that we started in 2020 and that has carried over as a hybrid for our business. If you are a Rotarian or a friend of a Rotarian, you'll be interested to know that about 75% of the clients that we train are over 50. And we have clients as old as 84 currently. My co-business partner has trained clients as old as 96, and we really believe strongly that strength training is a forever activity. Lastly, before I hand things over to Peter Sherris for a testimonial, I want to thank Danny Mai, Dave Kirsten, Nancy Williams, Diane Schaefer, Peter Sherris, his wife Astrid Lacidis, Shannon Hackley, Riza Hernandez, Sandeep Rajmandari from Local Foods, and most importantly, I really want to give a huge thank you to Gary Flaxman, who was just dogged in his pursuit of a brick and mortar location for us as our broker. So thank you so much, Gary. And Peter, I'll hand it over to you. Peter, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. So I became a client of Jesse about 1.5 years ago, and I gave him 3 tasks. One is I wanted to continue to ski because I was having some difficulty doing the kinds of slopes I wanted to do. Number 2, he couldn't hurt me. And number 3, I know there's very good evidence in the medical profession that your strength is actually strongly correlated with your survival and how long you live. And so, Jesse, I just want you to know that yesterday I skied, or day before yesterday, I skied 19,000 vertical feet, basically without stopping, at least only on the chairs. And I feel stronger and I feel better. I think I'm going to live longer, improve my quality of life. And I most appreciate that I've never sustained any kind of injury under your supervision. So thanks a lot and keep up the good work.
Thank you so much, Peter. And Dave Kirsten put together a video for TNT, which I'll put a link in the chat if anybody wants to check out what we do. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jesse. And I apologize for the mix-up. I don't know if anybody can, this doesn't really show well on the screen, but my printer, we need to get somebody in the club who does printer repair. But the sheet that I'm looking at for the run of show is like blue and white stripes back and forth. So I'm I'll take full responsibility, but I'm going to blame the printer too. Anyway, thank you, Jesse, for sponsoring our meeting today. And also, just to remind people, if you'd like to sponsor a meeting, it's a contribution to the club of $250. And you get 3 minutes of unabashed talking about your business and telling us everything you can. Or a lot of people have an event and an organization that they're associated with and would like to promote that. So using the 3 minutes to talk about that too. Anyway, thank you, Jesse. David Kittner, are you out there?
I sure am, President Dudley. Thank you.
David, we did in December, we did our annual Feed the Hungry campaign. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
I sure will, President Dudley. The Feed the Hungry campaign, for those of you who are not aware, for 30 plus years, I think it may be closer to 40, the Rotary Club raises funds to distribute to those who have food insecurity in our community. And this last December, we raised over $52,000 in pledges. And to give that some kind of a perspective, the most that had ever been raised just by Rotarians, and that's all who did this 52,000. It wasn't matched from anywhere, just Rotarians at our lunch meeting. The most we'd ever raised at lunch was a little over $16,000. So we went from $16,000 to $52,000, which is just tremendous. And I want to share with you who that money goes to. So I'll let you read who these groups are. You can read faster than I can speak. But what they do is they represent geographically located around Oakland. They all have it covers a broad range of constituencies from preschoolers to veterans, and the money stays here in our community. And I'd like to take just a moment to give a special shout out to a few people who really helped make this happen this last time. So I'd like to say thank you to Seth Butner, David Douglas, Steve Nichols, Joe Gorolka, Fred Morris, Lorna Padilla Marcus, Robert Kidd, and Peter Sherris. Thank you everybody for giving this. Special thanks for those folks. You should have received an invoice for your pledge. If we have not gotten your money, expect in February that someone will be reaching out to you and asking you to please honor that pledge. And so again, thank you very much. The community is going to be very grateful for this money that's going to show up in May to help them. That's it, Dudley.
Thank you, David, and a special thanks to you for leading the campaign this year. You did just a wonderful job. That was tremendous. So Isaac Koss Reed, are you out there today? Sandeepa, do we have Isaac out there today?
Isaac's here. He's ready.
Can you see me? There we go.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Great to be here. Yeah, I wanted to give a shout out for the Rotary blood drive that's going on now across the entire district 5170. I know a couple of us, Joe Goralka, Ruth Strupp, myself have either already donated or are regular donors. So go ahead and download the blood donor app. You're seeing this on your screen, hopefully right now. It's quite, it's American Red Cross, kudos to them for great communications. They let you know where your blood goes, who you're saving or which city they're from. And it's just fantastic to see and then contribute to the overall Rotary spirit of service. So download the app, connect to the Rotary District 5170 team, and most importantly, please give as soon as you can. There is a national blood crisis right now and everybody needs to step up. So if you're healthy, please give.
Thank you, Isaac. Now, I know for some of us, actually, I signed up on the app. It takes a little bit of work to get through the app. You can always go to Red Cross and you can make an appointment that way. What I found was that just to do a general blood donation, there are not many appointments available right away. There are some that are in mid-February. I know there's a blood drive in Emeryville, and you can also sign up. So between now and then, also, if you have certain types of blood, I think it's A negative and B negative. Peter, you can help me with this. I know that platelets, there are some special areas where there are appointments available right now. But just go ahead and sign up for about a month out, but the need is there. So thanks, Isaac, and thanks, Joe, and everybody who's donated so far. And And if you don't go through the app, the district app, just give Jesse Bowdle a call and let him know that we did it, and we'll tell the district that we've been part of the campaign. Thank you. Mary Jeong, are you out there?
Yes.
You still in Washington?
No, I came back to sunny California. It was freezing in Washington, D.C., visiting my granddaughter and my daughter. But I'm glad to be back. So anyway, I'm talking about next week, February 1st, is Lunar New Year, the year of the tiger. And normally we get together for an annual dinner with the Rotarians, but due to COVID, we're not able to come together to celebrate the Lunar New Year. So we like to offer you an alternative solution, a Japanese takeout bento box. It would be on Thursday, February 3rd. And it would be from the food provider is Secure Bistro Restaurant. And the cost is $30 with a choice of, you could select either beef, chicken, or salmon teriyaki. And the meal comes with rice and 2 other side dishes. And this is really a bargain. You don't have to cook that night. And we will have delivery available for pickup at the California Ballroom around 4:30 to 5:30. And then if you can't come out and would prefer home delivery, we have President Dudley Uber service for delivery to your home if you indicate it in the comment section when you make the reservation, and also indicate what entree you want on the Club Runner reservation. So anyway, the deadline to order is February 1st, which is next Tuesday. So join us. And I also happen to have 3 calendars that I like to present to 3 people who made reservation. President Dudley will randomly pick up 3 people, and the calendar has the Chinese character Folk, which means prosperity. And we hope that 2021 will bring you prosperity. So please remember to order by this week and no later than Tuesday next week. Gong hei fa choi.
Thank you, Mary. And we look for, and let me emphasize that we will have a online meeting, the regular meeting at noon next Thursday. It'll be kind of featuring Lunar New Year. I know Mary's going to share a little bit about the history of Lunar New Year, and we have a special speaker too. So please join us for our regular meeting at noon. And then if you order ahead of time, you can either come to the ballroom at, was it 4:30, or I will lead a team of Rotor Uber delivery people, or Rotor Dash, maybe we call it, whatever it is. Anyway, some of us will come around and deliver your meal for you. Thank you. I mentioned that we're going to be online throughout February. We have to look forward to this as a positive thing to protect everybody in the club as best we can. We also realize that there's a lot of, it keeps changing. We don't have to hunker down in our homes. So we're going to continue to promote what we feel are safe events. On February 15th, there will be a golf tournament at Sequoia Country Club. You can sign up online for that. On February 24th, we're planning to, there was a flyer, and we'll start promoting it a little bit, but we've rented the Grand Lake Theater, and we're going to show a movie, Evolutionary Blues, that highlights the music scene in Oakland, particularly along 7th Street, and the development of blues in Oakland. Also, I remind you that the gala is coming up in April. The district, if you go to the district website on March 13th, there's a special program, a one-day event for International Women's Day, and also the district convention is coming up on April 22nd to 24th. So there's things happening. I know that Robert Kidd is trying to put together an outdoor hike. So we'll try to do things outdoors and in large spaces. And the one other thing that we will be doing is when we come back, and during February, we're going to ask you to resubmit your vaccination, and we will require a booster vaccination, a proof of vaccination for a booster. when we come back. So we're going to take a few minutes here. People have been asking for some Zoom breakout room time. So we have about 8 minutes, I think, Sandeepa. You're going to put us in random rooms together. If you want to have a subject, I would ask you to talk a little bit about membership. We need to start emphasizing it. We haven't been really calling it to everybody's attention, but you know, the question is, what do you really like? What's Rotary given you as part of your life? And is there somebody that we could share that? If that's good for you, can we share that with others? But anyway, Sandeepa put us in a breakout room. There will be a little notice about 1 minute before the room is over. And then we'll come back for our speaker.
The breakout rooms are for 8 minutes. Please discuss how we can improve membership. Breakout rooms will be opening right now. Everybody will be asked to join automatically. Please accept. And let's get in a lot of members. Discuss, talk, fast.
You're muted, Dudley.
Thank you, Sess. I could have got on another 5 minutes and you could have taken over. Yeah, we had a great talk with Bob Peltz and Phil Holt and Michael Bruck in our room talked about. And sort of the bottom line from everybody was people come by invitations. There's a lot of ways to, there's social media and advertising and networking, but it's looking at your network of friends and associates and, finding somebody that could benefit from the club as you have. Okay, Ahmad, are you out there?
I am out there, President Dudley. How are you? And blessings to everybody.
Let me get my spotlight off, and there you go. Now we've got you there. Go for it.
Hello, President Dudley and the Oakland Rotarians. Peace and blessings to all. I have the opportunity to welcome our guest speaker. Our guest speaker is the kind of person I would say to you in most incidents, and I'm a little biased, that I should say, bang his name and everybody should know him. But everybody is not as fortunate as I, and I don't want to be biased in that way, but I have the opportunity to introduce Larry Beal. Larry Beal, as you know, is on our ABC network, but he hailed from University of Hawaii, outstanding student journalist. He was renowned for one of his greatest statements he made as he went through his broadcast early careers as showing a home run to those out there in TV land. He said, aloha, and that means goodbye. Mm-hmm. And so I met Larry almost 11 years ago in his efforts to improve engagement with the community, with youth and sports. I was with the Nevada Youth Football League, and he came out, he found out about how my team was doing. And Larry and I have been friends ever since. We don't talk that often, but when we do talk, it's just a pick up the phone and it starts like, so I was thinking about, and we don't say hello, we're gonna say goodbye. We just keep the conversation going. An outstanding broadcaster, has been in the Bay since '89. He is amongst the greats that were on 1996 on SportsCenter with Robin Roberts, Keith Oberlin, and Dan Patrick. He asked people ask him, why would you leave such a great national network and come back to the Bay Area, go to local TV? And it's like they say in real estate, location, location, location. I am proud to be a friend, proud to introduce you to my friend, the one and only Larry Beal, ABC's TV sports broadcaster, and I should say my broadcaster. Larry Beal, my friend.
What's up, Ahmad? It's good to see you virtually.
Yes,
that was
sir,
a very
brother.
Flowery introduction. I'm not sure if I can live up to all of that, but I love your Zoom background, and that when you talk about location, 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 that is it right there. I mean, California is great. As many of you know, I'm actually from Hawaii, and that's even better scenically, I would argue. But the work is here, and we've been here a long time. I'll give you a brief run. I don't want to bore everybody with in 1997, I did this. And then in 2000, I did this. But I'll give you a brief rundown of how we got to where we are. But I was reminded of something just a few minutes ago, because we're obviously busy planning for the possibility of the 49ers going to the Super Bowl. If they win on Sunday in LA against the Rams, then they would advance to play again in LA at SoFi Stadium in the Super Bowl. But a couple of years ago, because you guys were talking about the pandemic and meeting and all this stuff. So 2 years ago, me and the rest of my crew from Channel 7, we are on the field just after the 49ers had lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And what had happened was that we sent like a dozen people to Miami, so great expense, and we're there for the week, and we're doing all kinds of coverage. But then when they lost, somebody back at the TV station decided, you know what, we're not going to lead the newscast with the 49ers because they lost, and it's kind of a downer, and so we're just going to push you down a few minutes in the newscast. And I was just like in shock. I was like, we spend the whole week here. We're doing all this stuff. And now just because they lost, you don't want to, that's what everybody's talking about. And I said, what in the world could you possibly think would have more relevance to our audience than the 49ers in the Super Bowl? And the producer said, well, there's this crazy virus thing that they just discovered in China. And, we think that could be kind of an important story. And I was like, what? How stupid is this? Nobody cares about that. And well, obviously, I was wrong. And in as much as the 49ers were a huge story, who would have ever guessed that 2 years later, we would still be meeting virtually or be forced to meet virtually instead of having in-person events. And so, yeah, that little virus thing that nobody knew about turned out to be world altering. So here we are. I'm at home. You folks are presumably in your homes. And I'll rewind from there. I was a journalism student at the University of Hawaii way back when. Really wanted to play point guard for the Lakers. They had Magic Johnson. Really wanted to play tailback for the Dallas Cowboys. They had Tony Dorsett. So my services were not needed in those areas. And so I decided, well, the next best thing then I should be talking about sports since nobody wants to pay me to play for them. So I started writing for the student newspaper, doing some campus radio, got my first job in television behind the scenes, working for public TV, and gradually worked my way up. I was on the CBS station in Hawaii for about 7 years, got an offer from KTVU, was at KTVU from 1989 to 95. In fact, on my house hunting trip in 1989 to look around and see, all right, where do I want to live? I actually was in the Caldecott Tunnel when the Loma Prieta quake of 89 hit. And a lot of people would say, well, that's had to be frightening. The Caldecott Tunnel didn't move an inch. In fact, I came out of the tunnel and I had no idea there was an earthquake until I got down into Berkeley, and people were in a frenzy. And I was like, gee, this is so weird. What's going on here? Anyway, that's the story there. I was at KTVU for 5.5, 6 years, then went to ESPN, and Ahmad had mentioned that I worked with, some people who have done pretty well in their career. At the time, those of you who are big sports fans, there's ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN News, ESPN Classic, ESPN Deportes. So there's a million ESPN channels. At the time, there was only really the main ESPN, and then we had just launched ESPN2, and there was a grand total of 11 of us who were on the air. And now there's probably, I don't know, 50, 60, 70, whatever it is. They've got a million people. So things have changed an awful lot in the business. I decided that I did not want to spend the rest of my life, nor did my family want to spend the rest of their lives in snowy, cold Connecticut. So we started looking back at the West Coast, and there was an opportunity that came up at Channel 7, and then the rest is history. We came back in 2001, and I've had, a tremendous opportunity to cover multiple World Series, multiple NBA Finals, multiple Super Bowls. It's just been, one great event after another that we've been fortunate to enjoy here in the Bay Area. And so hopefully we'll have another Super Bowl here to talk about in another few weeks, and perhaps, especially since the Warriors are on Channel 7 quite a bit because ABC is the home to the NBA Finals. Hopefully, we will be courtside at Chase Center when the NBA Finals begin in June, and we get back on schedule since everybody's schedules in pro sports have been a little messed up. So I can keep talking if you want, but I know our time is limited. So what I would really prefer to do is, if you folks have questions, it's better if you have stuff that you really want to know, because the odds of me hitting whatever the main topic that you're interested in is probably pretty small given the wide range of things that we can cover. So I'm usually on the other end of these Zoom calls with the Warriors where we have to raise our hand or whatever. And then Steve Kerr or one of the PR people will say, okay, you go, then you go, then you go. I don't know how you do it on this end, but I don't know, Ahmad, you could pick whoever goes, Ahmad. You're in charge of this. You're our head coach today. You're our let's see, what coach should be? You're our Belichick. You're our Shanahan. You're well, I don't know, whoever you want to be.
Well, what do you think about
Mike Tomlin?
Yeah, what do you think about the matchup between the Chiefs and the Bengals? That was the first question.
Well, I've been secretly admiring the Bengals for a few weeks now, and I was telling everybody, look out for Cincinnati. Nobody's paying any attention to them. And so here they are, and they'll be playing the Chiefs on Sunday in the AFC Championship game. After watching Mahomes last week in a duel with the Bills and Josh Allen, I'm not sure that Cincinnati has the firepower to hang with them, especially on the road. Arrowhead Stadium, I remember going there many, many years ago, covering a 49ers game. And that stadium has to be like the loudest outdoor stadium. I think Seattle wasn't, their new stadium had not been built at that point. Seattle's supposed to be super, super, super loud as well. But it's hard for me to imagine any outdoor venue being louder than Arrowhead. So there's going to be a lot for the Bengals to overcome. But I would not be shocked, let's just put it that way, if they came through. Not as sexy, actually, having the Cincinnati Bengals. Although if the Niners make it, then you have Niners Bengals, and everybody in the Bay Area will remember those matchups, and Joe Montana to John Taylor and the Super Bowl victory. So that could be fun as well. But it's probably the Chiefs in the AFC. And I'd have to say the 49ers, they've beaten the Rams 6 times in a row. If you went on Wikipedia and looked up who owns the LA Rams, the correct answer technically would be Stan Kroenke. He just spent $5 billion to build SoFi Stadium. But I think the real answer is Kyle Shanahan. He owns the Rams, at least schematically when it comes to game plans. And if they can run the ball effectively, I think the Rams are going to be in trouble, just as they have been in the other meetings.
Very good. Here's another one, more close to home. A's moved to Vegas, being that it's not a baseball market, and given the number of weekend night games.
Wow. We could do hours just on this. And as it turns out, I'm fortunate because I work with a producer by the name of Casey Pratt. And for those of you who are big on Twitter, you should follow Casey because he is in the pipeline of all the secret information that's going back and forth between the city and the A's and the Alameda County Board of Supervisors. I am, for the longest time, I would say I was cautiously pessimistic, and then I turned to cautiously optimistic. And based on what I've been hearing just the past couple of weeks, as long as we don't fumble at the 1 yard line, I think the funding is in place for the A's to get what they need and for the city of Oakland to get what they need regarding the construction at Howard Terminal. The big issue was $352 million in infrastructure upgrades that needed to be discovered. Like, where's this money coming from? And since then, as you know, I'm sure those of you that are watching the news, you know about the infrastructure bill that passed. California has a bunch of money that Gavin Newsom has indicated he would be willing to send this way for the A's effort. So I think, in fact, I just heard a couple of talk show hosts on the radio in Vegas almost waving the white flag, saying, "Well, with the environmental impact report getting certified just last week, the steps are quite visible and in place that we can see clearly that the A's can get this done." And actually, we have kind of regular sessions with Dave Cavill, who's the team president, and we talked with him last week, and he was more optimistic about Oakland than I have ever heard him in any of our interviews. So I don't know that to me, the Vegas thing was just a leverage play all along, and I thought the A's quite frankly bungled it and didn't do a great job of letting the people in the city of Oakland know that they really wanted to be here. And so that, when you hear all these stories about we're on parallel paths, I found it to be quite irritating, to be honest, that was the tactic that Dave decided to use. But For whatever reason, they chose that path, and they've kept John Fisher, their billionaire owner, shrouded in secrecy the way he prefers. So, they went the way they went, and they seem to be right on the verge of actually striking the deal. Now, there's a lot of steps and regulations and things that have to be accomplished between now and an actual shovel in the ground. But I think the A's are closer than they've ever been to actually getting Howard Terminal off the ground as a project. And I don't think that Vegas was ever really going to come up with they weren't going to come up with any money, actually, because the A's wanted the Raiders' sweetheart deal. They were never going to get that. They haven't even really narrowed it down to picking a specific site that would work. So I think the Vegas people feel like they were being leveraged all along, which I believe they were, and hopefully the A's can get something done with the city council in Oakland and get this thing wrapped up.
So, of course, didn't come in the box right away, but your 49er prognosis.
I think they're going to beat the Rams again. I really do. I think, assuming everybody's healthy, Trent Williams, who's the best offensive tackle in football, didn't practice yesterday. He's got an ankle injury, but he should be able to go, I think. And everybody else is trending in the right direction. I'd like to see Ambry Thomas, the cornerback who missed last week, come back. Even though he's a rookie, he's better than some of the other alternatives they have. And I just think, I was just looking at another story, actually, that said there's going to be more Niner fans at SoFi Stadium on Sunday than Rams fans. The Rams people have been begging their season ticket holders not to sell their tickets to 49ers fans, and that effort is failing miserably. So if you go on StubHub or Ticketmaster or any of those things, you'll see what seats are available. And there's a whole bunch of Rams fans. Because from a financial standpoint, you make the investment, you have to buy the personal seat license and all this stuff. This is your chance to get even for the year by selling, 2 tickets to one game. And then you could still be in line if the Rams go to the Super Bowl to get that. But I do like the Niners in what I figure would be a relatively low scoring game, not like Bills Chiefs or anything like that, because the Niners just, their style of play, Ahmad, you would know this, they want to run the ball, chew up the clock, keep Matt Stafford off the field, and make sure that Cooper Kupp doesn't, run wild and have 12 catches for 167 yards and 2 TDs. So exactly. They are going to try to play keep away most of the game. And the Rams have shown a complete inability to stop the Niners running game, especially when they put Deebo Samuel back there at tailback. And he's just a one-man gang.
Absolutely a beast. I have another question, and this is more about our youth, and you and I know about that because of work we did with the youth in the Bay Area and you and I in Nevada. Question is, any thoughts on what we can do to help more young people to succeed in sports, for us to cultivate the best things about sports within our communities?
Well, the first thing would be, let's get COVID in the rearview mirror, because I think one of the things that's happened that some have focused on, and actually at Channel 7, we did a whole documentary series that's available on our app about 3 kids that went to McClymonds High School and had their junior and senior years completely disrupted because they either couldn't play or nobody could see them play. So the scholarships that they were counting on never materialized. And this happened all across the country. I've got a bunch of friends back home in Hawaii, and that state is crazy for football, kind of like Texas. But there's a whole bunch of great players that nobody has seen because they missed a year. So to me, that would be the first thing to get that going. I don't have some grand plan on how we can get more kids into athletics. I just think the emphasis on education in the schools and improving the schools in general would allow for more success in the classroom, and then hopefully in interscholastic sports. Because I think if you have somebody, a child, I can only go by what, my own kids did. They were very active. I had one daughter who was in band, which I never knew how hard band was. imagine playing an instrument and trying to march forwards and backwards and sideways and not run into everybody. I mean, I can't play anything. So I could barely get the walking part back and forth. And then another daughter that was a cheerleader for many, many years. And so just to see on a Friday night, all the kids gathering and all the parents there and watching, to me, that's like the best part of our communities. And if we can have everybody with enough equipment, that's the other part of it. You know, everything always kind of diverts back to sponsorship and being able to have the money to provide these programs. If we can get that consistency, especially with some communities that don't have all the great resources and you know, perennially kind of get the short end of the stick, if we can help them out, yeah, I mean, look at a kid like, I mean, and I love him, Najee Harris from Antioch. I mean, he is fantastic. Not only is he a great football player, but you just talk to him for 5 minutes and you just love the guy. I mean, he's everything that you would want. And he came out of a situation that was really challenged. And, you know, he's going to be a star in the NFL. We need more Najee Harris type stories where kids can grow up and, you know, maybe not have the best of everything, but still have enough opportunities where they can make it. Now, you know, not everybody's going to be, you know, 6'1", 235 and run a 4.40. I mean, Ahmad did, but you can't. Not everybody.
Yeah. Well, I did run 4.5, but not the 4.4. But that's a great segue to the next question. What's going on with the NIL? Our colleagues, you're talking about Najee, and there's also a young man from Cincinnati who played in the Bay Area as well, out that way in that area of Contra Costa County. But our college students are actually going to get to sign contracts to market their likeness.
Oh, it's already happening. I mean, NIL, I think there's some good things about it, but there's also some perilous things about it. And, you know, for years, the NCAA ran college sports, and I would argue ran it into the ground because all they care about is their own power. And so I saw so many situations where kids who were from underprivileged backgrounds, you know, crazy family situations where, you know, a coach will give a kid some money so that he could, you know, fly home for Thanksgiving. And then they would be slapped with sanctions because, you know, the family dared to have their own children in their house for Thanksgiving. To me, that was always so backwards and so absurd given what the mission of going to college should be. And so now we have it spinning the opposite way, where if you're a popular athlete, and, you know, Ahmad, as a Cal alum, you could appreciate this. Chase Garber's the quarterback. He probably has half a dozen side deals with various companies that, you know, he will endorse. Now, they're not huge dollar deals, but it actually gives kids the opportunity to make some money and not have to worry about getting enough food or being able to get home for the holidays or anything like that. All right, so what's the downside of this? Before this past college football season started, Nick Saban, the coach at Alabama, perennially, you know, one of the best teams in the country, was talking about his quarterback who had never played a game. He had never played a snap, and suggesting that he might be earning $1 million in name, image, and likeness money per year for being the quarterback at Alabama. Well, that's great if you're the quarterback at Alabama, but if you're every other school in the country that's trying to recruit against Alabama, that's a problem, because what this is going to do potentially is create an even bigger gap between the haves and the have-nots in college sports. If you go to Duke and you're the star basketball player, people are going to be throwing all kinds of money and opportunities at you. Same with the Alabama quarterback. Same if SC gets it going. What happens to San Jose State? Who's throwing money at those kids for sponsorships, or even Cal, where Chase Garbers, as far as I know, is really the only kid that really scored out. What's interesting, and here's another, you know, positive side of the story. Some of you are familiar with the name Mark Mastrov in the East Bay because he owned 24 Hour Fitness, was the creator, sold it. He's a billionaire. His daughter plays basketball for Cal. She's a freshman. Her name is Mia. and Mia was able to make some money off of Instagram because she's kind of an influencer. And so during this past Thanksgiving, she, out of her own pocket, she didn't ask her dad for anything, paid for 600 meals, I believe. And I think it was through Glide to, get some meals out for Thanksgiving to those who couldn't afford them. So you have those kinds of stories that are out there that are, really potentially great positives, but I would love to see, and I don't even know how you get there, achieve some balance so that all the kids can
opportunity
and can get the benefit of this, not just the star quarterback at the biggest school in the country. So I think it's a step in the right direction. And ultimately, maybe there's some way to work out stipends so that the kids do get paid, but are not quote unquote professional athletes. But it's a slippery slope to navigate, especially when you get into the bigger programs that have so much money, and trying to figure out an equitable way so that everybody gets the benefit of it and not just the big schools and the big star players.
Sure. So I have two more questions. The second to the last question is about Big Tim L and his poor showing, great Giants picture and his poor showing in the Hall of Fame voting. What are your thoughts on, I know that's a whole nother piece of politics, but what is your thoughts on why he did not fare so well in the voting?
You're talking about Tim Lincecum?
Yes, Tim Lincecum.
Yeah. So
I'm a Giants fan, so I felt real close to just say it like that.
Yeah. I mean, I love Timmy, watching him play, and he's such a great character. He didn't have a long enough career to establish the benchmarks that the Hall of Fame voters really want to see. You really have to be one of the dominant players for kind of like a decade. I mean, Bonds did it for 2 decades, but there's all the controversy about how he achieved his numbers in some cases. Mm-hmm. So, I think it's disappointing that Timmy's not going to get recognized, but he really, if you look at his numbers, he had like a 4 or 5 year window where he was just phenomenal, but it didn't have the length or depth of career. And at the end, it really tailed off badly. And so I think it's unfortunate that he's, not going to be recognized. I mean, the Giants, he'll forever be a hero to the Giants, as will, Bumgarner. But I think baseball has a real problem. They don't, in terms of the Hall of Fame anyway, they want to pretend that the whole steroid era never existed. And so you end up, this year you had one Hall of Famer, David Ortiz, who himself tested positive in 2003, but it was quote unquote an anonymous test. So there isn't the direct linkage or the stain or the tarnish of all that Bonds and McGuire and Sosa went through. So they put him in. What are you going to do though? Or can you write the history of baseball from 2000 to 2010 without guys like Bonds and Clemens, McGuire, Sosa? The irony is that Commissioner Bud Selig was the guy that presided over the steroid era. They put him in the Hall of Fame a couple of years ago. This is the guy who watched everybody take steroids and did nothing about it because it was so good for business. Those of you, of a certain age will remember vividly McGuire versus Sosa and the home run derby and the battle and breaking the records. And suddenly this came shortly after a labor stoppage where baseball was dead. They resurrected the sport. They brought it back to life, but the commission, they don't want anything to do with those guys because of steroids. So there's a huge double standard there. To me, baseball would be better served to say, look, it's the Hall of Fame. It's not the Vatican. It's not a cathedral. It's a museum. It's a place where you go learn the history of the sport. So put Bonds in, but put on his plaque, this is a guy who admitted to using steroids. And if you want to say never knowingly used, however you want to phrase it, whatever, but put everybody's story in and then let the individual fan decide, is this person worthy or not worthy? Let us decide that. I don't need the commissioner to tell me who's worthy of going in, or what's even more absurd is that all of this is done. The voting is done by the Baseball Writers Association of America. Why? Like that. Okay. I mean, yeah, a lot of these people watched a ton of baseball through the years, but I can tell you so many of them had challenging relationships with Bonds that they would never vote for Barry Bonds. He treated everybody like trash for 20 years. So then you're going to go vote for a guy? To me, the baseball writers should have nothing to do with this process. I would have a separate committee of guys, of great players from the past that played. And, you could throw some media people in there, but I wouldn't just make it exclusive to the writers, because look, if I had to vote on Bond's personality and all the times that I interviewed him, he wouldn't be, very high up on my list of favorites. We had some really interesting interactions. I will give him that. He was really fascinating at times. But not, Mr. Charm School by any stretch of the imagination.
So Ahmad and Larry, we don't have earbuds in your ear today. So
Sorry about that.
So I'm going to have to be the producer in just a moment here. Can you stop your screen there, Sandeepa? There we go. Okay. Are we back here? Okay. Larry, first of all, Larry, when you mentioned kids and the quarterback from Antioch, Drayon Paul from McClymonds, who was quarterback of their football team this year, has been very closely associated with our club. We have what's called the Hope Scholarship Program, where we identify kids in middle school, mentor them, and when if they finish high school, have a good grade point, don't get in trouble, they get a $10,000 scholarship. And Drayon was part of that program. And one of our Rotarians, Gary Flaxman, mentored with Drayon throughout his high school at McClymonds.
Nice.
And that was it's tough because he's finishing high school and, going through the process of where do you go at this point. And it's a great story. Drayon he's a wonderful kid. Anyway, Larry, thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure.
This year, we're highlighting the new Rotary area of focus, the environment. And in your honor, we're making a donation to the Environmental and Sustainability Rotary Action Group, SRAG, toward their focus on biodiversity, sustainable living, pollution, the climate, food systems, and a circular economy. And we'll be making a donation in your honor. Thank you so much for being a part of our Civic Thursday club meeting today.
Anytime you want. And, I couldn't think of a better group. Well, there's a lot of worthy groups, but we only have one planet, and we should probably be doing more to try to make sure that we can continue to live on it. And as much as Elon wants to go to Mars, I'd prefer just to try to make this planet better. So awesome. I appreciate you're making that donation on my behalf. And as Ahmad knows, anytime you guys need anything, just let me know. And, hopefully we could do something actually in.
Thank you so much for being with us, Larry. So Sandeepa, I didn't see any bell ringers out there today. Am I correct?
No, Karen Freeman rang the bell for David Kittner.
Okay, great. And a bell ringer is a generous donation of $100 to the Oakland Rotary Endowment. And I'm going to just say, if there weren't more bell ringers, in honor of David, please pay your pledge to the Feed the Hungry campaign. That would be plenty if we can fulfill all the pledges from this year. In addition, just one other announcement is that last week, Joel Parrott asked people if they would consider doing a survey with, it's called Cool Climate through UC Berkeley, to get an idea of what your carbon footprint is. I would encourage you to do that. There's an email Jesse, did it go out or it's going out? It's
going out. We'll get it today.
Okay. You'll probably have it today to get to that link. So it's a great first step, and we'll be talking more about reducing our carbon footprint. Okay. Mary, could you tell us who's going to be with us next week?
Yes, thank you. So as we observe Lunar New Year next week, We not only celebrate the great contributions of Asian Americans to our community, but also look back at the many obstacles that Asian Americans have had to overcome. Our speaker next week is Jean Fausers, professor at the University of Delaware. Professor Fauser is the author of Driven Out, The Forgotten War Against Chinese Americans, which is a shocking story of ethnic cleansing in California and the Pacific Northwest during the 19th century. She will share not only the orchestrated crimes against Chinese Americans at that time, but also how Chinese Americans ultimately fought back and ultimately triumphed. So next week, Professor Jean Fauser at the Zoom meeting of Rotary Club of Oakland, and please bring a friend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary. Very quickly, thank you, Riza Hernandez, past president, past district governor, Ed Jelen. Thank you, Jesse, for TNT Strength for supporting our meeting today, for sponsoring, David Kittner, Isaac Koss, Reed, Mary, thanks so much, Ahmad, and Larry Beal. Really, thank you for joining us today. That was special. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Remember, we are Rotary, serve to change lives, and don't keep Rotary a secret. This meeting of the Rotary Club of Oakland is adjourned.